The Air Force's next-generation air superiority fighter is currently facing a strategic pause and substantial redesign, both intended to mitigate the program's exorbitant costs. Nevertheless, the Navy is proceeding with full momentum in its new stealth fighter program. Indeed, there is a substantial likelihood that the Navy may precede the Air Force. We are the first military service in the world to use a sixth-generation aircraft. The new aircraft is set to supplant the Navy's current fleets of FA-18 Super Hornets and eventually EA-18G Growlers during the 2030s, providing the Navy with essential capabilities for striking targets within heavily disputed airspaces. We will be operating at unprecedented distances alongside the Navy's growing F-35C fleet for the foreseeable future. Despite the Navy indicating its intention to award a contract for the deployment of these aircraft as early as next year, the future of the F/A-XX remains highly uncertain. Let's discuss the Navy's initiative to potentially deploy the world's first sixth-generation fighter, the necessary capabilities it must have, and the potential for the Navy to become the dominant force in global airspace. The U.S. Air Force may be reducing its procurement of F-15EXs, but the Eagle II has acquired an additional client in the Israeli Air Force. Recently, Israel finalized a $5.2 billion agreement that encompasses, among other items, 25 improved F-15Is, which are essentially the Israeli counterpart to the F-15X. In April 2012, the U.S. Navy issued a request for information RFI to industry partners regarding a new stealth fighter intended to replace the Super Hornets in the 2030s, coinciding with the expiration of the earliest delivered Super Hornets' projected 9,000 flight-hour lifespans. The Navy stated that this new fighter must deliver air superiority, possess multi-role strike capabilities, and operate effectively in an anti-access area denial environment. This revolutionary aircraft requires stealth to function in hotly contested airspace. Both the air-to-ground and air-to-air capabilities are crucial for spotting and combating sophisticated anti-ship and anti-air defense systems. The Navy mandated that the new stealth aircraft must be operable from America's Nimitz and Ford-class supercarriers. The focus was on enhancing the expanding capabilities of the F-35C in an uncrewed ISR and strike UAV program that was ultimately discontinued, perhaps in favor of the Navy's drone refueler initiative, which has since materialized as the MQ-25 Stingray. However, Rear Admiral Donald Gaddis stated that there was no established program to deploy this new aircraft, which was already in progress. The RFI served as a means to get insights into the prospective evolution of air power, a vision that would become markedly clearer to the Navy in subsequent years. In 2014, Frank Kendall, then Under-Secretary of Defense for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics, and currently the Secretary of the Air Force, commissioned DARPA to undertake a confidential study known as the Dominance Initiative. According to the results of this year-long study, implementing a family of systems built around a single, highly sophisticated stealth fighter, along with drone wingmen with artificial intelligence, will be more effective for achieving air superiority in the future. To complement that family of technologies, a variety of sophisticated new weaponry must be deployed, designed to use the capabilities of these drone wingmen and the novel sensors introduced by this aircraft family. The findings of this study were so promising that they directly resulted in a classified billion-dollar X-plane program, with funding shared among DARPA, the Air Force, and the Navy. The X-plane program was named Next Generation Air Dominance and resulted in at least one flying technology demonstrator that malfunctioned. Certain types of records, although the specifics remain undisclosed, have yet to be revealed. Within the Pentagon, this program was regarded as a significant success, subsequently serving as the foundation for both Air Force and Navy initiatives to develop distinct yet comparable new fighters, with the Air Force initiative commonly termed the Next Generation Air Dominance Fighter NGD, and the Navy initiative widely recognized as FAXX. Officially, both are categorized under the same NGD framework. The primary distinction between Air Force and Navy programs thus far has been their respective mission sets. The Air Force's next fighter is designed to supplant the F-22 Raptor, necessitating its role as an air-to-air specialist, adept at asserting control over future aerial engagements, with minimal emphasis on air-to-ground or strike missions. The Navy's new jet is designed to supplant the versatile Super Hornet for air-to-air and air-to-ground operations. This distinction is evident in the FAXX title, where the FA prefix denotes fighter war attack. This designation originated with the inaugural FA-18 Hornet, the first fighter in history capable of transitioning between fighter and attack modes in battle with a mere switch flip. Although all contemporary fighters are ostensibly engineered for multi-role functionality, the choice to retain the FA designation is evidently a deliberate acknowledgement of the necessity for a comprehensive capability spectrum. Furthermore, the FA-XX is anticipated to replace the EA-18G Growler and fulfill the electronic warfare function in the future. The specific aspects demonstrated by the Next Generation Air Dominance X-plane program, which successfully convinced both the Air Force and the Navy of this notion, remain unclear. However, certain inferences can be drawn from the limited information that has been disclosed to the public. This initiative seems unlikely to demonstrate the true viability of AI-enabled drone wingmen, which the Air Force refers to as Collaborative Combat Aircraft (CCAs), considering that the Air Force's effort to develop this fighter-flying AI is still in its early testing stages. In 2021, the Navy published a 28-page paper titled Navy Aviation Vision 2030 to 2035, which delineated performance specifications for the new fighter, potentially indicating the achievements of the record-setting X-plane during test flights. I'll quote that report now. Its specific capabilities and technologies are under development. However, analysis shows it must have a longer range and greater speed, incorporate passive and active sensor technology, and possess the capability to employ the longer-range weapons programmed for the future. Currently, extended range and increased velocity specifically indicate the necessity for a larger aircraft designed for fuel and armament storage, capable of operating at elevated altitudes. The Navy prioritizes enhanced range, as contemporary carrier-based fighters, the F-35C and FA-18 Super Hornet, lack the capability to exceed the range of China's most advanced anti-ship weaponry. This implies that the Navy must position its carriers within the range of sophisticated anti-ship missiles, such as China's hypersonic DFZF glide weapon, to conduct combat sorties. The branch aims to address this issue with the new fighter, which is expected to have a combat radius of 1,000 miles or greater for this purpose. Generally, aircraft may achieve greater speed and distance at elevated altitudes due to the thinner air and reduced drag. The SR-71 soared through the atmosphere at altitudes exceeding 16 miles to attain its record-breaking velocities. Elevated altitudes provide several unique benefits for air-to-air confrontations, such as enhanced sensor range and the aircraft's superior potential energy for maneuverability, allowing it to convert altitude into the energy necessary for aerobatic maneuvers. While it is highly improbable that this X-plane surpassed the SR-71's speed or altitude records, it is plausible that it may have set new benchmarks within its designated class of operational aircraft, potentially outpacing the F-15 as America's fastest fighter with a maximum speed of Mach 2.5 or the F-22 regarding operational altitude, likely around 65,000 feet. Importantly, the F-22 ceiling has not been revealed. It is possible that the stolen records, or, more importantly, the features of the X-plane that made the Air Force and Navy believe it was possible, were connected to advanced sensors or avionics, possibly using advances in gallium nitride technology to make radar arrays better or similar long-range targeting tools. According to representations published by the Air Force, Navy, and the three primary contractors vying to develop the new FAX fighter, it is apparent that this aircraft is designed to minimize detection not only against high-frequency targeting systems favored by contemporary stealth fighters. Additionally, lower-frequency early warning arrays are included. This methodology in stealth fighter design could significantly enhance the survivability of future aircraft for years, potentially justifying the program's advancement independently. Let us explore this matter further. Numerous aspects of fifth-generation fighter designs are intended to facilitate superior aerobatic performance. Although low-frequency radar systems cannot use the resonances made by vertical tail surfaces and sizable jet intakes for weapon guidance, they might be able to tell where an approaching stealth fighter is coming from. This does not pose a problem for the aerodynamic flying wing configuration of America's stealth bombers, such as the B-2 Spirit and the upcoming B-21 Raider. Both conceal their recessed jet inlets above the airframe, lack the knife-edge thin leading edges of their wings, and do not possess the vertical tail surfaces characteristic of the F-22 or F-35. Until quite recently, this was not a significant issue, due to their frequent unaccompanied flight through hostile airspace and lack of defensive tools against fighters that might approach them under the the guidance of low-frequency ground-based radar, stealth bombers must completely avoid detection. Stealth fighters are specifically designed for aerial combat. Only high-frequency radar arrays can achieve the goal of delaying detection while largely obstructing targeted. More and more advanced air defense systems are combining these two types of arrays, adding low-frequency radars to help high-frequency radars find their target and cutting down on the time it takes to lock on to a stealth fighter when it gets close enough to make a significant return. The radar systems capable of detecting a stealth fighter will not identify the aircraft until it is in close proximity. Utilizing a low-frequency array to ascertain the direction of an oncoming fighter enables the high-frequency array to be oriented directly toward the target as soon as it enters range, rather than initiating the search upon its arrival. In light of advancements in air defense technology, renders of the Navy's new stealth fighter, as well as those of the Air Force, appear to diverge from conventional fighter design, adopting a bomber-style approach to stealth. This includes the elimination of vertical stabilizers and the integration of recessed jet inlets, which are occasionally depicted on the upper surface of the aircraft. This design process will likely incur expenses for these new fighters. Some ways to make up for the loss of control surfaces in maneuvering and aerobatics are to use thrust vector control, which directs the thrust of the turbofan engine without moving the plane itself, or experimental active flow control systems that send air puffs through small holes in the fuselage to change the flow over the wings without using moving control surfaces. The Air Force and the Navy have unequivocally stated that their upcoming fighter aircraft will be produced through distinct programs, both categorized under the Next Generation Air Dominance Initiative. It's highly likely that multiple companies will build these. The Air Force's NGAD initiative is now on hold for reassessment, with only two companies, Lockheed Martin and Boeing, vying for the contract as Northrop Grumman withdrew from the competition in July 2023. The Navy continues to engage all three contractors, whereas the Air Force is meticulously dismantling its sixth-generation fighter program to identify cost reductions. The Navy plans to move forward with the original plan, which makes it more likely that the finished fighters will look very different on the outside, while possibly having many identical modular systems inside, especially those used to control their AI-enabled drone allies. This would reduce the total production and maintenance expenses, along with the costs related to forthcoming updates and enhancements due to the overall number of aircraft serviced. Moreover, it is probable that the Navy's new fighter will utilize engines from the Air Force program, drawing from one of two engine designs now under development in the Air Force's Next Generation Adaptive Propulsion Program, NGAP. The new engines under development by GE and Pratt & Whitney are anticipated to provide double-digit enhancements in thrust, range, and fuel efficiency compared to the sophisticated turbofans already utilized in the F-22 and F-35. Given the Navy's focus on range and velocity, these enhancements would undoubtedly be advantageous. Despite the Navy's dedication to deploying its next fighter in the imminent future, this initiative has encountered significant budgetary concerns. Similar to the Air Force, the Navy confronts the urgent necessity to replace costly Cold War assets that are nearing the conclusion of their operational lifespans. It includes Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines, Nimitz-class aircraft carriers, and additional assets. This year, the Navy deferred the distribution of around $1 billion intended for the advancement of R&D for the F/A-XX fighter in 2025. Instead of using these funds to improve the current state of readiness, last month Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin cautioned Congress that requiring the acquisition of a second Virginia-class attack submarine in fiscal year 2025, which he indicated the sector could not initially support, may result in the complete postponement of the new fighter program. Although the Navy may currently be poised to spearhead the global competition to develop the world's inaugural sixth-generation fighter, this advantage may be ephemeral. Last week, the defense ministers of Japan, the UK, and Italy concurred to expedite the construction of their next-generation fighter, designated as the Global Combat Air Program, GCAP, aiming for an operational date of 2035. Comparing the schedule to its American counterparts, it appears to be only slightly behind schedule. While Airbus and Assault's sixth-generation fighter initiative in Europe is moving along at a similar rate, the Navy has affirmed its commitment to advancing the FAX fighter program. Yet it is undeniable that certain aspects of this initiative are inherently linked to the Air Force's next-generation air dominance fighter. We are currently on hold and anticipate having everything sorted out by the end of the year. It appears that the competition to develop the world's inaugural sixth-generation fighter remains highly contested. However, I must emphasize that the true competitiveness lies not in who can deploy their fighter earliest, but in who can deploy the superior fighter. Which aircraft can exert a more significant influence on the battlefield within the context of a comprehensive air warfare strategy? However, for the time being, that remains a contest open to anyone. If you found today's video beneficial, please click like, subscribe below, and leave a comment to indicate what topics you would like me to address next. Additionally, ensure you activate the bell symbol to remain updated on all releases from this channel, Tactical Aviation.